In a season where I have been one of the biggest advocates for Craig Counsell and all the success that he has had with the Chicago Cubs, and the fact that I do believe should the Chicago Cubs finish with the best record in the Central Division, winning the Central Division title, he should be the manager of the year. In today's game, we had some issues rear their ugly head again that once again have us questioning, can Craig Counsell cut it in the postseason managing the Chicago Cubs? Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Hey, I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Thank you guys so much. All right, so we got to talk about it right off the jump. The Chicago Cubs do go ahead and lose to the St. Louis Cardinals today, allowing history actually to be made, probably the greatest major league debut of anybody of all time is what they're calling it, as Joshua Báez goes on an absolute tear, hitting home runs in his first three plate appearances for the St. Louis Cardinals, basically being the driving force of this game. Again, like I said, it got out of control towards the end there, but a lot of the scoring actually came from Báez. Báez homered in the first, Báez homered in the fourth, Báez homered in the sixth, and like I said, I mean, he collected a bunch of different RBIs, being able to do so, and good for him. He's a young player. He's a young kid. I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on him or hating on the St. Louis Cardinals, even though I do hate the St. Louis Cardinals and I hate their fan base. But good for him. Good for him. Like I said, it's not that he did it. It's that it didn't have to happen. Craig Counsell, one thing that we saw in this game was that Matthew Báez was not as sharp as he normally is. And for what it's worth, we have a returning pitcher tomorrow. We have brand new pitchers that we just traded from. And we have a strong bullpen. And we have middle relief guys in Colin Ray and Javier Assad that could absolutely come in and stretch a game for you, give you 3 solid innings before you really have to go to your bullpen guys. When you see somebody like Joshua Báez, young player that's on a tear, that is kicking ass and taking names, it probably behooves you to say, hey, maybe we ought to not pitch to him again. Maybe we ought to walk him. Maybe we ought to allow somebody else to pitch to him because he's picking up on something that Matthew Báez is doing. Now, listen, guys, this is the same issue that we have had with Craig Counsell and Tommy Hotovy for years. Too much trust in guys that are getting banged up or banged around. And you know what? I don't even know if I can necessarily call it trust, because I just think that after a certain point in the game, Craig Counsell just counts that as a loss. Wash, done. We'll get him tomorrow. But here's my issue with that type of thinking. When you have that type of thinking, a lot of times that is going to cost you games that you possibly still could be in and win. Michael Conforto came in this game in the second inning and tied it up. Matthew Báez was able to get out of the third unscathed. You come into the fourth inning and you give up another home run to Báez. So it's 4-3, right? We get to the sixth inning. Why is Matthew Báez still pitching to guys like that? This guy earned 7 runs in this game. Earned 7 runs, allowed 5 hits, 3 walks, only 2 strikeouts. Now, y'all know that's not the normal Matthew Báez. So when I look at this, I say to myself, guys, why would you sell this game in? Why would you not go all in for this one? You got the White Sox coming up. You got a couple of other tough games coming up that you have to absolutely deal with. And at the end of the month, you're going to see the Brewers. If you are this close to the Central Division, which now you're back 4 games behind the Brewers, because not only did you lose, but the Brewers also beat the Dodgers today. So now you're looking at the fact that you're 4 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers again after you had gotten it down to 3. Listen, man, if you're really serious about winning the Central Division, and if Craig Counsell is serious about proving that he should be manager of the year, making a real statement, a real case, he's got to stop mailing in these games. These games matter. We as the fan base are convinced this Chicago Cubs team has what it takes to overtake the Milwaukee Brewers and win the Central Division. But it can't be done, and you're not going to be able to hold on to that if you keep mailing in these games. Winnable games. This is a 500 ball club. They're teeter-tottering 500. They win a series, go 2 above 500. They drop a series, go 2 below 500. That's who the St. Louis Cardinals are this year. I know they had that little stretch in the beginning, but this is who they actually are. They're showing you now who they actually are. Meanwhile, the Chicago Cubs are 20 games above 500. And aiming to try to win the Central Division. However, you cannot do that when you mail games in, Craig Counsell. I am very, very patient with Craig because I have watched every game. I've not missed a game this season. I've either listened to, watched, or been at every single game the Chicago Cubs have played this year. And I'm telling you guys, I've seen him maneuver through some shit. Like, seriously, some stuff managers just shouldn't have to deal with. The amount of injuries, the amount of people that have been out, all of these different things that he's done. He deserves manager of the year. But we still have this one issue. I don't know if it's too much trust in some pitchers. But listen, in the postseason, you're going to end up you're in the postseason, whether you're wild card or whether you are the division in the division series, you're going to be, shortening games anyways. Why not begin managing games like this like you're going to manage in the postseason? Why are we leaving Matthew Boyd in and allowing him to see somebody that's homered off of him twice? Why are you allowing him a third opportunity to see him? That's my question, Craig Counsell. That's my problem. I understand what the analytics say. I understand what people have to say. And also, and I made a TikTok about this and put this up on, make sure you guys follow Chicago Cubs Central on TikTok also. I made a TikTok and I also said this. I'm like, listen, good for Joshua Báez. But trust me, when the tape comes out on him, it'll be a different story. Once tape is out on him and people actually are able to game plan for him, this is his first game. That's why I don't put too much weight, too much stock into what he did. I mean, albeit amazing. It was amazing. But once the tape is out on him, and once he gets figured out, he could very well end up being another Moises Ballesteros. Don't put too much weight in the fact that he homered 3 times today. It was great. It's a great story. St. Louis needed something to cheer about. Cool. But once the tape is out, it might be a different story for the kid. That's all I'm going to say about that. But as far as Craig Counsell goes, you have to manage each and every one of these games like it's a postseason game, man. We cannot afford to be just mailing in games, just saying, hey, it is what it is. We're too close for that. And we're too close to the end for that. Everybody's bored watching. Craig Counsell, you got to do better. You have an opportunity tomorrow, just like the players get an opportunity tomorrow to perform better, including PCA, who is slumping right now. Luckily for him, Shohei Ohtani isn't doing much better. So, I mean, it looks like it's a 2-man race right now, but both are slumping. So it depends on who gets hot again first. The Chicago Cubs will face those same St. Louis Cardinals again tomorrow. The Cubs are 72-52. The Cardinals are 62-61 on the season. Then we welcome in the White Sox to Wrigley to close out the Crosstown Classic. So we'll see them on 3 different occasions, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And then after that, we're going to Seattle to face the Mariners and then the Diamondbacks. And then I think we are done on the West Coast. So, yeah, man, like I said, the Chicago Cubs got winnable series is coming up. And again, for what it's worth, I do believe the Chicago Cubs are going to win the series against the Cardinals. I do. But what we want to see is you got to keep up with Milwaukee. You can't take 2 steps forward and take 5 steps back. So the Chicago Cubs have to maximize these winnable series. It's a winnable series against the White Sox, though. It's the West. Outside of the Brewers, that's the toughest series they got coming up. They're because, like I said, when you go to Cincinnati, you're not going to see Hunter Green. Like I said, the Mariners are pretty much phoned it in for the most part. And then, of course, like I said, you got the White Sox. Then you got the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks might be a little bit tough. And then, of course, then after that, man, it's showtime. It's our first chance against the Brewers. Once again, we're going to play them 4 times at Wrigley Field. I think this is Wrigley, or is this is, oh gosh, I think this might be at no, it's at Wrigley. Thank God. 4 times at Wrigley as well as where we'll see them. And then after we finish up with the Brewers, we will see the Marlins. We'll welcome the Marlins. No, we're going to go down to Miami and play the Marlins. And then we'll come back and face the Brewers one more time, the Pirates. Then we got the Braves. We'll welcome the Braves to Wrigley, or is that in yeah, we'll welcome the Braves to Wrigley, and then we'll see the Reds, then we'll see the Marlins, and then we finish up with the Boston Red Sox. The series everybody is predicting to be the World Series this year. Boston Red Sox versus the Chicago Cubs. So we'll see, man. It's going to be a lot of fun baseball still left to be played, y'all. We have got to buckle in, but Craig Counsell has got to lock in. Dude, you are so close. Him and PCA, you guys are so close to carrying so much trophy, so much weight, so much gold, like I said, and solidifying both your careers. PCA, you win the MVP. You are solidified as one of the best all time. There are only a few select that can say they were ever league MVP. You would be the first since Chris Bryant to be able to say that you did that with the Chicago Cubs. Craig Counsell, you will be the first to be able to say you did that you were manager of the year since Joe Madden. I think he won one. Did Joe Madden win manager of the year in 2016? I believe so. Let me double check that. Geez, Joe Madden is 72 years old. I didn't realize that. But anyways, yeah, man, like I said, oh, yeah, he won manager of the year in 2015. That's crazy. He won in 2015 when the Cubs didn't win the World Series. Interesting. All right, y'all. Well, listen, like I said, tomorrow on Sunday's game, we got the return of Edward Cabrera. Now, a lot of people have had a lot of things to say about Edward Cabrera, including myself. However, he's got to come and bring it tomorrow. Edward Cabrera has to bring it. I mean, he has to look dominant. He needs to enlist fear in the hearts of the St. Louis Cardinals. It's our last time playing them this season. Last game against the Cardinals this season. Let's end it on a high note with a W. Hopefully, he's a big reason why. But that's my episode for today, y'all, man. Like I said, Craig Counsell, you got to lock in, bro. Edward Cabrera, you got to do your part. We'll see what happens, man. Make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe. But hey, leave your thoughts. What are you most frustrated with the Chicago Cubs and Craig Counsell as far as his managing duties? What do you think he could be better in? Make sure you guys comment below those thoughts. Thank you guys so much for your time, for watching these episodes, for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. Thank you all so much. Until next time, go Cubs.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.